Kim Jae-hyuk stood in the living room, staring at his mother with an expression that screamed disbelief. He had been summoned downstairs to meet the new neighbor, someone his mother had been enthusiastically talking about for days. "You didn't say she was a girl," Jae-hyuk muttered under his breath, his face flushing slightly. His mother raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Does it matter? This is my house, and I'll introduce whoever I want, however I want." Her tone left no room for argument. Jae-hyuk sighed, feeling both embarrassed and cornered. Gathering his courage, he turned to the girl standing beside his mother. She was about his age, with a calm but curious look in her eyes. "Hello," he said, his voice quieter than he intended. The girl nodded politely, offering a small smile. "I'm Lee Min-chi. Nice to meet you." There was a moment of silence before Jae-hyuk awkwardly extended his hand. Min-chi hesitated for a fraction of a second, then accepted the gesture. Their handshake was brief, stiff, and awkward, exactly what one would expect from two strangers forced into this situation. Kim Jae-hyuk's family lived in a two-story house, but with no need for the second floor. They cleared it out and rented it to a new neighbor, Lee Min-chae. Min-chae turned to Jae-hyuk. "Do you go to Youngmin High School?" she asked casually. Yeah," Jae-hyuk replied, caught off guard. "I'm transferring there tomorrow. Let's get along well," Min-chae said, with a bright smile. Shocked, Jae-hyuk nodded shyly. Yeah, sure." Left alone with Lee Min-chae, Kim Jae-hyuk shifted uncomfortably. Though she seemed nice, he reminded himself he wasn't great at talking to girls. Suddenly, Min-chae rummaged through her pocket and asked, "Do you have a lighter?" Jae-hyuk froze. A lighter? Was she planning to make clouds? The thought left him speechless. "Hey, you should have one," Lee said, raising an eyebrow. "Dumb guy." Her words hit him like a jolt, and he blinked in disbelief. "Why aren't you answering?" she asked, staring at him. "This guy can't even look me in the eyes?" Min-chae tilted her head, as if piecing something together. Then her eyes widened with mock realization. "Wait a second, are you maybe a loser?" she exclaimed. Jae-hyuk's jaw dropped, completely thrown off by her bluntness. At Youngmin High School, Kim couldn't help but feel uncomfortable around the bullies. They always called him a loser, a label he couldn't shake off. Though he knew deep down he wasn't one. He couldn't forget the beginning of the semester when everything started. One day, a man with striking red hair walked up to Kim's seat and casually asked him to buy him a banana milk from the store. Kim was taken aback. Nobody had ever spoken to him like that before. His immediate reaction was to tell the guy, "Go get it yourself," but before he could process the words, a loud slap echoed through the classroom. The red-haired guy had slapped him across the face. "If I told you to buy it, then buy it," the bully remarked coldly. Kim, utterly shocked, opened his mouth to protest. "Wait, why did you hit me?" Before he could finish his sentence, another slap followed, sending his head spinning. The red-haired guy didn't even hesitate. "Never talk back to me," he snapped, his voice dripping with venom. Kim tried to shake it off, but he couldn't forget that moment. Earlier today, when the bully had exploded over a simple mistake. Kim had accidentally given him the wrong burger, and even though he apologized, the red-haired guy had punched him in the stomach, leaving him breathless and bruised. Kim stood there, trembling as the red-haired bully glared at him. "How many hits do you deserve for your mistake?" the bully sneered. "3, Kim muttered, trying to stand his ground. The bully smirked. "Let's multiply that." He struck Kim 5 times in quick succession. Before another punch could land, a voice shouted from the hallway. "The teacher's coming." The bully paused, then sneered. "We'll finish this later," and walked off with the others, leaving Kim breathless and reeling. As the teacher entered, he announced, "We have a new classmate today." Kim, about to sit down, froze. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was her, the new roommate at his house. Out of all the classrooms, she was transferred into his class. He was stunned. The teacher, oblivious to Kim's shock, motioned to a seat next to him. "Lee, you'll be sitting next to Kim." Lee, scanning the room for a seat, turned and noticed Kim. Her eyes widened as she remembered him, the loser who lived downstairs. Kim's face turned red, a mix of disbelief and embarrassment as their paths crossed again. Kim uncomfortably sat in front of Lee when he suddenly felt a sharp jolt of pain on his back. Turning around, he saw Lee with a folded piece of paper in her hand. Without a word, she tossed it at him. He opened the paper, and his eyes scanned the note. Don't act like we know each other." Surprisingly, Kim agreed. He'd be too shy to do that anyway. As the class came to an end, Kim, feeling like he should do something, folded a piece of paper and passed it to Lee. She looked at him, puzzled, before opening the note. Her eyes widened when she saw it was a school map. In the bathroom, Kim stood surrounded by several men. The red-haired bully loomed over him, smirking. "You got 4 hits left," he sneered. "Clench your jaw, that's next." The bully swung his hand, and Kim instinctively shut his eyes. But just as the strike was about to land, the bully's hand hovered right next to Kim's face. Lowering his hand, the bully said, "I won't hit you anymore. You know why?" He paused for a second. "Because I'm a good guy." Kim stared at him in disbelief, his mind racing to process the sudden shift. Then, the bully continued, "But I need a favor." Kim hesitated. "What favor?" The bully smirked. "You're good at studying, right?" One of the men behind Kim snickered. "Him? Looks more like a game addict." Kim glanced at the guy and, in his mind, smirked. "Says the guy who looks like a drug addict." The bully, Sangbom, leaned closer to Kim and said, "I need your help with the midterms." Kim blinked in surprise. "How so?" Sangbom smirked. "I need you to make me cheat sheets for exam day." "Cheat sheets?" Kim repeated slowly, his mind racing. If he got caught, he'd get a 0. One of the other bullies raised an eyebrow. "Why are you trying so hard to get good grades, Sangbom?" Sangbom shrugged, but then said, "I want to study abroad. My mom says I need to do well in my exams if I want her to let me go." He turned back to Kim and asked again, "So, will you help me or not?" When Kim hesitated, Sangbom's expression darkened. Without warning, he kneed Kim in the stomach, making him double over in pain. "Let me ask you again," Sangbom said coldly. "Will you do it or not, Kim?" Gritting his teeth, Kim reluctantly nodded. "Fine, I'll do it." "You made the right decision," Sangbom said with a smirk, turning to leave. Before stepping away, he glanced back and noticed the strange expression on Kim's face. Irritated, he slapped Kim across the face. "Relax yourself," he demanded. "I'm sorry, Sangbom," Kim stammered. "That's better," Sangbom replied, before leaving with the others, their laughter echoing as they disappeared down the hallway. Kim remained on the bathroom floor, kneeling. His body shook as tears streamed down his face, falling onto the cold tiles beneath him. Through blurry eyes, he whispered to himself, "I wish I were better at fighting than studying." His hands clenched into fists, but no strength came to him. The frustration and humiliation poured out of him in silent sobs, filling the empty bathroom with the sound of his despair. At home, Kim's family was busy preparing for dinner. "Kim, go call Lee to come downstairs," his mom said as she set the table. Shocked, Kim blurted out, "Why? She's living here, so she should eat with us," his mom replied matter-of-factly. Kim sighed, muttering to himself about how awkward it was to eat with a girl. Reluctantly, he trudged up the stairs. Standing outside her door, he hesitated for a moment before knocking. "Lee?" he called out. Silence. No response. He knocked again, louder this time. "Hey, dinner's ready." Still, nothing. Kim frowned, unsure whether to knock again or leave. Hearing her say, "Enter," Kim hesitated for a moment before slowly opening the door. As the door creaked open, he saw Lee stepping out of the bathroom, humming a tune that playfully repeated the word, "Enter." She froze mid-step, her eyes widening in shock. "What are you doing?" she shouted, quickly grabbing the nearest object, a coffee pot, and hurling it at him. The pot hit Kim squarely on the head, and everything went black. When he came to, he groaned, feeling a weight pressing on his stomach. Blinking, he saw Lee's foot resting on him as she leaned over. "Wake up, loser," she said flatly. Kim scrambled to his feet, disoriented. What happened?" Lee rolled her eyes. "What do you mean, what happened? Don't tell me you forgot already. You got knocked out by a coffee pot." She smirked, arms crossed, clearly enjoying his embarrassment, while Kim rubbed his head, feeling both pain and regret. Lee crossed her arms and looked at him sharply. "Now, the real question. Why did you barge into a girl's room unannounced?" Kim stammered, I'm sorry. I thought you told me to enter. And why are you even here?" she asked, her tone unimpressed. "Mom told me to call you for dinner," he replied, his voice quieter now. Lee sighed dramatically. If you ever barge in like that again, I'll rip your limbs off, she said, casually, turning her back to him. As she glanced over her shoulder, she added coldly, "You disgusting creep." Kim stood frozen in the doorway, unsure of what to say or do. The awkward silence lingered for a moment before he finally mumbled another apology and shuffled back downstairs. At the dinner table, Lee took a bite of the food and remarked, "This is really delicious." Kim's mom smiled and replied, "Thank you, I'm glad you like it." Kim watched the exchange and muttered to himself, "She's so polite with adults, but treats me like this. Is it just me?" His mom chuckled and then turned to Lee. "So, why did you decide to move here alone?" Lee let out a small chuckle, clearly amused by the question. "I actually came here to study," she said, keeping her tone casual. Without thinking, Kim blurted out, "What study?" Lee shot him an unkind look. She continued, "My grandfather owns a building out in the countryside. He promised to pass it down to whoever goes to a university in Seoul." She paused, adding, "I'm working hard to make that happen." Kim's mom was clearly impressed. "That's amazing! How cool!" Lee then added, "I used to live in the countryside, where I mostly focused on sports. There weren't any real academies around, just sports." Kim, intrigued by the story, listened closely, wondering more about her past. Kim's mother beamed with pride and said to Lee, "We've got the perfect person for studying right here. Our one and only, our unrivaled #1 student, my son, Kim." Lee blinked in surprise. "Kim is the unrivaled #1 student?" She clearly didn't believe it. "Are you really the best in your school?" Lee asked skeptically. "Yeah," Kim replied slowly, clearly not enjoying the attention. Kim's mom smiled, continuing, "Although he may look dumb, he's never lost his top spot." Kim quickly shot back, "Don't call your son dumb." After the meal, Lee turned to Kim's mom, bowing slightly. "Thank you for the meal," she said politely. Kim watched her, still trying to figure her out. Lee then turned to him and, with an unexpected calmness, said, "I'd like to talk to you for a moment." As Kim and Lee walked down the stairs in the night, Kim repeatedly asked, "How far are we even going?" Lee suddenly stopped and took out a cloud maker. "Hold on," she said as she lit up the cloud maker. After taking a puff, she glanced at Kim and said, "Hey, #1 student, teach me how to study." "Study?" Kim repeated, clearly confused. He immediately shook his head. "No." Lee, surprised, asked, "Why not?" She took another drag from her cloud maker and added, "I'll give you a cut once I become the building owner." Kim shook his head again. "It's not about that." He paused for a moment before telling her firmly, "I hate bullies. I don't want to teach bullies how to study." Kim started walking back toward his house, telling Lee, "Head home once you're done." Lee, upset and thinking about what to say, called out, "I'll help you hook up with a girl. I have a lot of friends back home." Kim paused and looked back, but he remained firm. He reminded himself, I must not fall for such seduction. Suddenly, a group of tough-looking men with tattoos approached, asking Lee about the girl. Kim's heart sank as he recognized them. These were the same bullies from school. The men began flirting with her, clearly undeterred by her discomfort. One of the bullies asked, "Where do you go to school?" They offered her a drink, but she declined. Kim's eyes widened in shock. There was no one around to help, and the situation was escalating quickly. The bullies began pulling Lee up, saying things like, "You're definitely into guys. We'll make sure you're not lonely." Kim's instincts kicked in, and he quickly pulled out his phone, calling the police. He couldn't let this go any further. As the men closed in, Lee swiftly grabbed one of the guys' necks and without warning delivered a punch to his neck with her knee. Kim stood frozen in shock, unable to process what had just happened. With a crash, the bully crumpled to the ground, knocked out cold. Kim couldn't believe it. Lee had taken him down with just one knee. The remaining two men shouted angrily and charged at Lee, but Kim watched in awe as she smoothly adopted a fighting stance. It was clear she knew what she was doing. One of the men, with yellow hair, lunged at Kim, but before he could land a hit, Lee's fist slammed into his face. Punch after punch landed, and soon the man was sprawled on the ground, unconscious. The last man, seeing his comrades taken out so effortlessly, hesitated, but not wanting to back down, he charged at Lee, shouting, "I'm a second Dan black belt in Taekwondo." He swung a powerful punch, but Lee was faster. She dodged to the side, and with a swift elbow to his right cheek, knocked him out cold. Kim, stunned by the speed and precision of her moves, watched in awe. In just a few moments, Lee had knocked out all 3 men. As Kim processed everything that had just happened, he realized that Lee's skills must have come from her background in sports. He made his way down the stairs toward her. Lee, noticing him approach, shot him an annoyed look. "Why are you still here? You could have at least called the cops, dumb guy," she said with a hint of sarcasm. Kim paused for a moment before asking, "The sport you did, what sport was it?" She glanced at him and replied nonchalantly, "Martial arts." Kim's mind raced as he recalled the bully's constant attacks on him. Then an idea struck him. "I'll teach you how to study," he offered, "if you'll teach me how to fight in return." Lee raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued.